Fala pessoal, tudo certo? Sou o Felipe, te agradeço por clicar no canal e vamos ver o que eu separei hoje. Eu separei o Jim Sullivan, que deu uma entrevista aí. Pra quem não conhece, o Jim Sullivan tá envolvido nos UAPs e ele deu uma entrevista há pouco que eu achei interessante. Vamos ver o resumo que eu fiz. Jim Sullivan é um ex-agente executivo da CIA. Ingressou na agência no início dos anos 90 e aposentou-se após cerca de 27 anos de serviço. Durante sua carreira, trabalhou em operações de coleta de inteligência e tarefas relacionadas à análise de ameaças e atividades estrangeiras. Então o cara sabe o que está fazendo, né? Atuou em várias regiões, incluindo o Oriente Médio, Ásia, Pacífico, e ocupou cargos de supervisão e liderança. Envolvimentos com UAPs, após a aposentadoria, Sullivan tornou-se uma figura pública em debates sobre UAPs, também chamado de OVNIs, né? Deixa eu ficar menorzinho aqui. Ele participou de entrevistas, podcasts e aparições públicas falando sobre a necessidade de investigação séria, profissional desses incidentes. Em 23, Sullivan foi mencionado nas notícias em razão de alegações e documentos envolvendo investigações privadas de UAPs, os OVNIs. Ele negou envolvimento em alguma das alegações públicas associadas ao caso. Por exemplo, relacionadas a supostas transferências de objetos ou relatórios sensíveis, e afirmou que sua participação pública tem sido voltada à transparência e à compreensão do fenômeno. Mais ou menos esse aqui é o Jim Sullivan, que a gente estava dando uma resumida ali, eu pedi pro ChatGPT fazer para mim, né? E eu separei aqui também, mas a gente nem vai ouvir ele falar, né? Mas antes de ouvir ele falar, vamos ler um pouquinho aqui, ó. Em uma entrevista reveladora para a Sociedade de Ufologia de Yale, Jim Sullivan, oficial veterano com 25 anos de carreira na CIA, discutiu sua trajetória na inteligência e seu papel fundamental na fundação do To The Stars Academy. Lá em 2017, quando começou a surgir todo esse novo movimento aí dos OVNIs, dos UAPs, ele participou com o Tom DeLonge e com o Luz Elizondo e com o Chris Mellon, que liberaram aqueles arquivos, né, o Tic Tac e aqueles outros vídeos que a gente viu, né. Vamos ouvir um pouquinho do Jim Sullivan.
Excellent question, and I think the answer is when I used to get briefed on a program I wasn't running, but I had to know about it because it fell under my my purview. I would have somebody come in to my office and sit down, and they would say, "I want to brief you on a program," and and it's top secret. It's a code word attached to it. I said, okay. And it's bigoted, which means there's only a list of so many people that know about it. So they make me sign an NDA. And of course, this is a totally different NDA. This is an NDA specific to this particular program. Now, when you join an intelligence organization and you get a TSSCK, God, I forgot what it is anymore. Haven't used it. But anyway, when you get these clearances, you get, I had a Q clearance. I had all these clearances, but when you get these special clearances that come with it, you sign separate NDAs with those. So what they do is they say, well, okay, here's the program. Here's the unclassified cryptonym that describes your program. Here's the classified cryptonym for it. And this is what the program's about. And then you give you a general outline of what the program does. And sometimes they offer you a more in-depth, or they'll read you into everything. And if you agree to do that, you sign another NDA and you get on another bigot list. And I did that a few times and I learned my lesson. I took the initial briefing, but I didn't take the secondary one because I didn't want all that information in my head, number one. And number two, you being in the agency for a long time, and you ask any intelligence officer, sometimes, you mix what you read in the New York Times with what you hear in a classified briefing. You got to be really, really careful. And you generally don't say anything to anybody because you don't know what the hell you want to be so careful. You don't want to let anything out. So I didn't want that anymore. I mean, I said no. So what I think is happening here is.
Aí, esse foi um pouquinho do Jim Sullivan falando, né, das classificações, dos acordos que tu tem que assinar e fazer. Vamos pro meu resuminho aqui, depois a gente volta para ele vai falar mais um pouquinho. Ó. Experiência na inteligência, né? Sullivan detalhou como operava na Clandestine Service da CIA, o serviço clandestino da CIA, recrutando fontes em academia, e indústrias para evitar surpresas estratégicas contra o país. Ele explicou que o trabalho da agência envolve monitorar fenômenos, mesmo os de natureza exótica, caso representem algum risco para a segurança nacional. Aí, o envolvimento com o UAPs, após uma experiência pessoal que descreve como um incidente, Sullivan começou a colaborar com cientistas e pesquisadores. Ele se uniu a Tom DeLonge para criar a To the Stars Academy, focada em pesquisas científicas e entretenimento sobre o fenômeno. To the Stars Academy, quando ela começou, ela disse que ia fazer um monte de coisa, mas até agora eu acho que eu só vi alguns livros e um filme que o Tom DeLonge fez. É bem legal o filme dele, assim, é tipo um Goonies. É bem interessante. Aí o processo de divulgação que a gente vai ouvir ele falar aqui daqui a pouco, ele vai entrar nesse processo. O ex-agente destacou o trabalho de Chris Mellon e Luiz Elizondo na obtenção e liberação dos vídeos da Marinha, o Gimbal, Go Fast e o Tic Tac, que eles ficaram bem famosos lá em 2017, né, quase 10 anos atrás, que foram cruciais para a reportagem de 2017 do New York Times. Ele observa que, embora o interesse tenha crescido, o governo ainda mantém alto nível de sigilo e compartimentação. Vamos ouvir mais um pouquinho do Jim Sullivan. Eu não sei se é mais adiante que ele entra no assunto, mas vamos ouvir mais um pouquinho.
Is they get told, maybe a gang of 8 member or 2 or 3 members, a gang we get told they sign an NDA and they said, look, you can be read into this fact that we have a program and this is what it entails. And this is generally speaking what we know. But we can't tell you where it is. We can't tell you the nature of the research we're conducting. We can't tell you the names of the people that are running it. We can only tell you that it actually exists. And I think that's probably what a few people in Congress now know. But I don't think anybody's fully briefed on this because politicians, as you know, I mean, they're servants of the people, but at the same time, they're not there all the time. So they go. And when you get a politician, like some of them are saying, they come right out and they said, this has to be open. We have to tell the whole world about everything, open up the doors, let all this stuff out. I mean, seriously, are you going to tell a guy that? I tell him anything? Of course not. You're not, because the problem is I may know 1,000-foot view of all this, but if there's a 50,000-foot view out there, and there probably is, and I don't know what the hell the other 49,000 feet has in it, I am sure as hell not going to say anything about it because I don't want to jeopardize the program, that the aspects of the program that are really, really, they're secret for a reason. And I also don't know the full story. I don't know how dangerous this is. I don't know anything. I just know that, I'd like to see it disclosed, but I don't, I don't necessarily want to get to the point where I'm causing a national security concern. Is somebody...
Tá aí o ex-agente da CIA falando que ele sabe um pouco, mas ele não sabe tudo, que é cheio de tem que saber isso, tem que saber aquilo, ele não sabe se é perigoso, se não é. O ponto de vista dele é esse, né? Como é que tu vai falar, como é que tu vai liberar tudo se nem um cara que trabalhou lá por 27 anos e procurava sobre isso, pesquisava sobre isso, sabe toda a informação, né? É mais ou menos isso, né? A natureza do mistério. Sullivan admite que após décadas de exposição ao tema, o fenômeno continua sendo um mistério profundo. Ele discute as implicações da tecnologia observada, sugerindo que ela desafia a física convencional e pode estar conectada a questões de consciência e outras dimensões. Mais adiante ali ele vai entrar nesse assunto. Eu acho que eu vou colocar mais um pouquinho aqui dele falando e depois a gente vai para a conclusão ali que eu fiz. Vamos lá.
Jing jangling me or something?
I don't.
You got a ringing somewhere?
Eu acho que vou passar um pouquinho para frente aqui.
Commission. He set it up with some, defense contractors and said, "This is how this is going to be run. This is how we're going to deal with this." Because don't forget, I mean, back in the early 50s, I mean, it was a scary time, all right? We were worried about the Soviets dropping bombs. We were worried about psychological warfare. I mean, it was a whole different ball game. And here they run across this anomalous behavior that's going on, and maybe they have a craft or two. Roswell, the incident in 1952 over Washington D.C., all this radar data we had visual sightings. I mean, what do you do with all that? I mean, and you don't want to panic anybody. The United States at that time was primarily agrarian. I mean, telephone lines were primitive, if anything. Most people didn't have television sets. They listened to radios. So what do you do? Well, you first of all try to stave off panic. Second thing you do is you don't screw up the telecommunication system, which, like I said, is very, very primitive. So you hide this, you keep it away. You keep looking at it, but again, you don't want to panic the public. And or what if they found out very early on something very, let's say, dangerous or exotic about this that would completely upturn the way people think about life and reality in general. I wrote a paper recently on disclosure. It may or may not get published, I don't know, but it has to go through the agency first. But and I talk about this concept, and for me, UAP and the phenomena, I don't care too much about the nuts and bolts of it, because let's say we have downcraft. I have it on good authority that we do, anywhere from 9 to 20.
Tá aí um cara que trabalhou na CIA, né, falando esse tipo de coisa que eles estão tentando colocar, no passado não podia porque poderia sobrecarregar, trazer pânico para as pessoas, e agora estão tentando devagarinho, eu acho. Vamos ver. Se eu não me engano, falaram que vai ser daqui a 30 dias a próxima leva, então o terceiro lote talvez pode levar até 30 dias. Eu vi, acho que a congressista Luna falando isso. E agora chegou onde eu queria chegar. Vamos ouvir mais um pouquinho do Jim Sullivan. Só parei para não tomar um copyright aqui, né? Então vamos ouvir mais um pouquinho dele, porque eu acho que aqui começa a ficar interessante o que o Jim Sullivan, o nomezinho, fala.
And let's say we don't understand it at all. I mean, we've been looking at this thing forever. We can't figure it out, right? And technology might be 30th century technology as far as we're concerned. But let's say we had a communications with non-human intelligence, some species. And let's say we listened to them, heard them, and maybe they explained a little bit about what they can do. I mean, and what they have done. We could see now, I mean, the technology is just absolutely incredible. They can appear, disappear. It looks like they're able to manipulate energy and or possibly space-time. Is Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis talked about this in the Age of Disclosure, and I think that's the common theory right now that's going on in the government about what they think about UAP. It is highly, highly complex and very, very strange. But what does that actually mean? Well, if you look at, I mean, I talked to somebody once and I asked them, and I said, well, where do you go to study this? I mean, do you go to an experimental physicist? Do you go to a theoretical physicist? Do you go to an engineer? And the answer is you probably go to all of them, but you also go to a psychologist, and you also go to religious scholars, and you also go to social scientists, because all of these disciplines, they're racked up on top of one another. They're all involved in this, and there's no way you can escape that. So if you're looking at this, and I mentioned this in the podcast a few times, we're all used to living in this universe, this reality. It's a consensus reality. A consensus reality based on our sensory package that we're all born with, which is highly limited. And so we're seeing things. I know, I had a friend of mine who was a younger guy, and he was all disillusioned about this and that, questioning life in general. And I said, you're looking at you're looking at reality, or you're looking at your life through a very closed lens. I said you don't see you don't hear everything you should hear, see everything you hear, you don't sense anything. There's a lot more out there that you can experience. It just is. It's just a lot more out there, and so you're not really getting, your interpretation of what reality is really based on a limited number of facts. So, you have to sort of sit back and go, just live the life that you know, and and do the best you can with it, and what have you, and try to study. But what happens if you look at this and you say, oh, let me get back to what I was talking about. I asked the scientist where would I look, and he said, if you drew a Venn diagram.
Só dar uma paradinha aqui ligeirinho para não tomar um copyright. Tá vendo? Ele tá indo mais para esse lado, assim, ele não se importa tanto com a tecnologia, com tudo, ele tá mais preocupado com a consciência humana, o que vai acontecer com o ser humano quando ele descobrir. Acho que é isso, esse é um pânico que ele tem, né? Que ele achava que no passado ia ter, que agora ele tá tentando liberar, mas pelo visto é bem difícil, e eu acho que nem o governo americano sabe tudo, e o que sabe, eles estão preocupados que a turma vai se apavorar. Vamos ouvir mais um pouquinho do Jim Sullivan, vamos lá.
The little circle in the middle should be consciousness and maybe quantum mechanics. That's probably where all this lies. I mean, Max Planck, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, said in 1931 something to the effect that matter is derivative from consciousness. He's convinced of that. He said it's all consciousness, and essentially what we're looking at, what we see, is illusory to a certain extent. I mean, if you're a quantum physicist, are we all spinning masses of energy, right? And if that's the case, that's our true being, true nature. Dig deeper into that and look even closer into that, and you end up being pretty much nothing. If the space between atoms is just, infinite or close to infinite, and electrons and what have you, I mean, what are we really? Are we just spiritual beings, or are we just parts of, a non-local consciousness that somehow or other incarnated into these physical beings that we are today for a particular reason nobody knows about? So this is what concerns me, and this is what's sort of frightening and also fascinating at the same time, because I think UAP and the phenomenon at its most basic level makes you question the nature of reality itself, and that what we view as our fixed reality may not be fixed at all. It may be something totally different. And as I mentioned this before, and not readily digestible. It is not something that most people would be ready to take on. We have been living in this medieval view. Our life is this, they call it the great chain of being back in the Middle Ages. There's God, angels, man, and you go down the list. And but that's sort of how we see ourselves, even to this day, even after Newton and everybody else, most people see themselves that way. And but what if we're not number 3? What if we're like number 5 on that list? What if free will doesn't really exist? What if, I know some of your people out there might be familiar with Charles Fort, probably the granddaddy of all this, of anomalous behaviors. And I mean, he said, after studying this for many, many, many years, he thought we were property. He thought we belonged to some non-human intelligence, that's able to do things to us at their will. And you certainly do see instances of that if you read the literature, the UAP literature. And I've read almost everything that's out there. When you talk to contactees, and I get people writing me all the time about their experiences, these people are normal people, and yet they're having these incredibly earth-shattering changes to their lives, and you can
Eu não posso colocar tudo aqui, né? a entrevista dele é 1 hora e 43 minutos, até já usei bastante. Mas o Jim Sullivan, ele entra mais nesse lado aí. Como ele, 27 anos na CIA, trabalhando com tudo, tentou achar o máximo que ele conseguia a respeito desse assunto. E ele ainda tem um monte de perguntas, tem mais perguntas do que respostas. E ele fica naquela, né? Se a gente é uma propriedade, se a realidade realmente é real, né? Se a gente é alguma coisa só física ou se a gente tem esse outro lado da consciência. E a gente tá vendo agora, né? Deixa eu ficar grandão que eu vou terminar já. A gente está vendo agora, né, os Estados Unidos estão tentando trazer bastante teólogos, né, e pessoas da religião para falar sobre isso, né? Então, assim, é uma coisa que vai chocar muita gente, de acordo com o Jim Sullivan, né, que não vai ser uma coisa muito fácil de entender, de interpretar. Vamos ver. Eu já vou terminar por aqui, estamos com 20 minutos, era para ser mais rápido o vídeo hoje. Tô com pressa, desculpa. Vou terminar por aqui falando que isso aqui é um hobby, então não me incomoda. Deixa o like, se inscreve no canal, comenta, tu acha que o Jim Sullivan tá certo? Tu acha que não, que é só tecnologia mais avançada que nós, de outra civilização vindo para cá, ou realmente tem alguma coisa mais ligada à consciência humana? A gente não tá no topo que nem a gente acha que tá. Cara, cada vez vai ficando mais esquisito e o bolo vai crescendo, né? Política, religião, UAP, consciência, física quântica, tudo meio misturado, né? Vou deixar o link na descrição para a entrevista, quem quiser ver. É bem legal a entrevista, é grande, mas é legal. Fui!